So for more insight into these meetings in Tehran, we now welcome Jonathan Schanzer, Senior Vice President for Research at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies, and he joins us live from Washington. Thank you so much for your time on this day. So the presidents of Russia, Iran and Turkey, all in Tehran, pictures of Vladimir Putin meeting with the supreme leader and also with Ibrahim Raisi. So to start, talk us through the message being sent here just days after U.S. President Joe Biden's blitz Middle East trip to Israel and Saudi Arabia. Your thoughts?
Well, certainly I think there is an attempt on the part of Vladimir Putin to demonstrate that he too has allies in the Middle East, that he too has the ability to galvanize other countries in common cause with Russia, much as I think Biden tried to do with Israel and Saudi Arabia. But I think the real important headline here is not Biden's recent visit, but rather the decision by Jake Sullivan to disclose information a week or so ago. This is the National Security Advisor to President Biden, where he revealed that it was the Iranians that were selling hundreds of drones, possibly armed drones, to Russia in order to continue to assist that war in Ukraine. So what we're looking at here is the potential formation of an axis of countries that actually does appear to include one country from NATO.
Not only are there suggestions that Iran is preparing to provide Russia with several hundred drones, some with weapons capabilities, as you're saying, but also apparently training is being offered too. What do you make of all of this?
Well, we know that the Russians continue to lose assets. The Ukrainian military has been somewhat effective against the Russians, and I think that's the good news. The bad news is that you have rogue states that are willing to help Russia make up the difference right now and to help them to fight more effectively in Ukraine. This is, of course, terrible news and really shocking when one considers that the West is still considering entering into a diplomatic deal with the Iranians that would provide them with billions of dollars in sanctions relief in exchange for fleeting nuclear concessions. This does not seem like a deal that should remain on the table right now, in light of some of the things that the Iranians are preparing to do to aid Russia.
And Jonathan, when it comes to the security situation in Syria, how do you think this could impact Israel's activities when it comes to Iranian sites there, and the fact that for now Russia has been in the loop about Israel's alleged strikes? How secure is this understanding now between Russia and Israel?
Well, I think the understanding is still somewhat secure. I think there is still a professional relationship, not a warm relationship, but a professional one between Israel and Russia. That's not likely to change anytime soon. What is possible in terms of change is that Russian troops could begin to either consolidate to the west of the country along the Mediterranean or perhaps even redeploy. This would be potentially good news from Israel's perspective, giving it greater freedom of action to strike Iranian targets throughout the Syrian territory. But I think there also could be a role for Turkey to play, either positive or negative. And these are all things that we're still watching.
Something else that the world is watching is the issue of grain exports. We just heard the Turkish leader saying Russia's position is positive and constructive. Putin saying not every issue has been resolved on the grain exports, but they have had progress. What do you make of these comments? And give us an idea of the urgency needed here to resolve this export impasse.
This is incredibly urgent. We're looking at a potential food security crisis coming up in just months, but certainly next year. That's when I think most analysts point to a real shortage if this is not handled. There's going to be a continued question about just the cultivation of grain in Ukraine, given its global importance, but certainly making sure that there is the ability to export this grain so that, in particular, Middle Eastern countries don't encounter massive shortages. You have to remember that it's these kinds of shortages that first sparked the Arab Spring back in 2010, 11, 12, and beyond. And that, of course, led to significant disruptions, political disruptions across the region, and some civil wars that we're still watching play out today. So incredibly important. This is a positive role. Putin doesn't always necessarily respond to outreach like this, and Erdogan is not always a leader that is looking to help stabilize the Middle East or even beyond.
Right.
But I think that this is a good first step to see.
Far-reaching implications on all these issues. Thank you for your insight on this day. Jonathan Schanzer, live from DC.